Hello and welcome to Journey Through the Eyes, the EMDR podcast that is here to unveil and explore the transformative power of EMDR therapy. Our mission here is to support both new and seasoned clinicians with powerful and critical conversations and resources about EMDR therapy and also how to build your incredible business or your practice. I am one of your hosts. My name is Tamera J. Brown. I am the CEO of Riot Psychotherapy and Coaching Services here in San Antonio, as well as an MDRIA approved consultant in training. And I have my incredible host and co-host and facilitator and so much more, Miss Kathy on the couch. Kathy, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Tamera. It's so good to be here with my friend, Tamera Brown and Nancy. Today, we have a powerhouse for you today. Nancy here is so excited to introduce her today. I am Kathy Couch here at Rewire 360 in Twin Falls, Idaho, spreading the mission of mental health care nationally and internationally through EMDR. So I'm so excited. I'm so excited for Nancy today. I've been waiting for her for so long to come onto this podcast, and I'm so thrilled. So, Nancy, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself, just who, what, why, all the deets, and then we'll kind of kick it off.
Yeah, hi, I'm Nancy Gildersleeve. I am a gym owner here in Twin Falls, Idaho. I own an all-stars cheerleading gym called Riot Xtreme Cheer. I've been doing this for a little over a decade now. I'm super passionate about kids, youth sports, growing youth sports locally in the community, and I'm super excited to share all my knowledge and answer all the questions in today's podcast.
Yeah. So we are all entrepreneurs. And so what happened with me and Nancy is I just decided to do this little rec cheer program to get my daughter into some sports activity, and it turned into so much more. And so I'm learning and Tamira's learning about the CEO mindset. And so I'm an observer. And so I kind of just sit back and watched. And then as I'm getting more into this, program, if you have never done Elite Cheer, today the idea is to support women and women-owned businesses, and also discuss how mental health care transforms into sort of the work that you do. And so as I'm watching you, it's been so amazing to see kind of as I get all the little pieces together of what you do. Now, you have a partner. His name is Joe. He's kind of, the fun parent. You're more of like the executor, business type. Now, as I'm watching you, it's been so amazing because you have this like visionary execution access. And as I'm looking at all the things you do, the competitions, the parent meetings, the payments, the conflict in the team, making sure that people drop out, people add in, and then on top of that, you choreograph the routines and you execute that. I am so happy to talk to you about this today. But first, I want to talk about sort of where your passion began. I know you were in Nampa, Idaho, and then you brought your business now to Twin Falls. So can you just kind of talk about sort of how the passion began for you, and then you're kind of living your dream right now. So kind of talk about that for us.
Yeah, so I mean, oh my goodness, we have to go all the way back to when I was like a little 5-year-old Nancy sitting on the sidelines. My dad used to drag me. I used to live in Mountain Home, Idaho. My dad used to drag me to high school football games, and every now and then, as a special treat, he would take me out to Boise State, and we'd go watch a Boise State football game together. And he was so excited to share these football games, and unfortunately for him, I went for the cheerleaders because I thought they were so cool, flying high through the air and doing all these cool flips and tricks and all these things that I wanted to do as a little kid. And so I really looked up to them, and that was something I really wanted to do. But unfortunately, at that time when I was living in Mountain Home, there wasn't anything offered for that. There was no like rec teams. There wasn't really anything that we could do to join. So little Miss Nancy at like 7 years old went and I made my very own first cheerleading team out at recess. And I told everyone, I've got this. I've watched all these cheerleaders. I know exactly what to do, and we're going to do this, guys. Um,
A little
and so
video being built.
that's kind of where it all started. Um, and then growing up, my dad, he was older. He had me when he was 50. And so um, he was disabled, and he was also retired. And so we didn't really, growing up, I didn't have access to a lot of things. We couldn't travel, to very many places. So at 10 years old, we moved to Nampa, Idaho, more so for his health, and to be able to be closer to his doctor and to have a rec center where he could go swim and work out every day. Um, and that's when I got into tumbling, but very little tumbling. I want to say I maybe tumbled for like 1 year. I loved it, absolutely loved it. But then again, it still wasn't very big. Like in Idaho in general, there wasn't a cheer team available in that area either. We had basic tumbling classes, and they were very beginner tumbling classes. I didn't have access to drive out to Boise where people were doing elite training. And so growing up, I was super passionate about these things, but I just didn't have access to them. And so I never really got my first real shot at cheerleading until I was about 16 or 17 years old. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about bringing youth sports to the community and making sure that it's available, and we give multiple types of people access to the sport and being able to do it.
Mira, go ahead. I know you probably have some questions here.
Well, I think it's powerful, and Nancy, I want to share that. I just thank you for being so transparent about your story. And just from a therapy perspective, right? We often share with a lot of our clients that a lot of who we are gets shaped by who we were in our childhood. And I just think it's just beautiful wisdom nuggets. And it kind of also points to and highlights your passion and your passion for wanting to make something so incredible accessible to so many people. And in my view and experience, you don't always find that in today's time, where you have people who really are doing incredible things for, children or even adults, and they're connected to their why, if you will. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek, right? And who shares their why. And so, it's like, when we think about being entrepreneurs and on the journey, and then having, it sounds like you have an incredible partner, and Kathy describes the two of you. One is the one that plays big and does all this other thing, and then you have such a business minded person like yourself. And so I wanted to ask this for just for the clinicians who are trying, right, to get into this business mindset. How or what helped you to shift in form of having this big dream, this big vision, and understanding why you were doing it, to creating a plan that you can offer and make this accessible to other people, right? How did you shift into that?
So to be quite honest, it wasn't really a plan of mine. I feel like I just kind of fell into it. Growing up, I actually wanted to become a nurse or a dentist. I changed the field I wanted to go into so many times. At one point, I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. So I was really big into like the health field. And it wasn't until my first semester of college, that was when Joe and I first started dating. He was a cheer coach. I was on it's no longer a team anymore. It was the Stampede stunt team. It's now the Utah Jazz.
Nancy.
Yeah. So so that was a lot of fun. So I was still kind of in the cheer industry, not super far into it, when we were approached with an opportunity to start a new cheerleading gym, which we called at the time Riot Cheer Force was the original name. And so we opened that up. I ended up dropping out of college to assist Joe. And I honestly, I wasn't a huge part of it, other than just kind of helping with sales, bringing people in. I knew a little bit about cheer. Again, I didn't really get into cheer or learn much until I was about 16, 17 years old. And so I felt a little underprepared to take something on like that. And I was like, I can help coach, I can help with little things here and there. But as it grew, I decided to further my education in cheerleading and youth development. And so I signed up for multiple classes. I've gone to quite a few national trainings. I've traveled all over the nation to gain this knowledge to bring into our gym. Um, and I don't know, I just kind of fell into it. So it wasn't really part of my path or my plan. And as I got more into it, I realized that it really lined up with my childhood, and that even though I had these goals to become a nurse or do something in the medical field, I realized that that was my parents' passion and kind of their goal for me. It wasn't really my passion and what lined up with what I wanted. And so I kind of had to take this leap of faith at one point, which my parents didn't agree with quite at the time. But now that we're years down the road, my parents, well, my mom now, she's super supportive of everything. My dad just passed away last year, as you know, Kathy. But they've both, after seeing me take that path and seeing how successful it's been, they've backed it 100%, and they're super excited and super happy for
There's
that change.
Nuances, right? So in my experience, I'm like, I'm just going to do this little class and it's just going to be fun. And you've seen me struggle this whole year with my first elite season. So it went to like, we're going to be a prep team, which is like, I don't know, Nancy, you'll probably say it better than I can, but something you're preparing people. And then we're doing the elite season is competing in Vegas. We're going all over the Northwest, and it's like, what is going on? And I'm launching my business, and I'm like, how am I going to do this? And so, how do you like get the vision for like all these little things? Because you pick the competitions, you manage the finances, the day to day. Like, what for you is like, how do you manage that piece of that sort of organization and planning and those kinds of things?
I would say the biggest part is just being flexible. There's always so many moving pieces, and there's just so much to it. I have to keep an open mind with a lot of it and a lot of what's going on. And so being able to move around all the moving parts, and then I always have a big vision and a direction that we're moving towards, but it's not always going to fall into place perfect. So like when we have people missing from practices, or there's emergencies that come up. Sometimes things don't work out with everyone's schedules. We just have to be willing to be understanding and move around all those pieces. And then also kind of shift direction. As you had seen, our youth team had to switch direction a couple of times this season, and that's totally fine. There's so many different goals that we can have with these kids, as far as what the kids are working towards. Because to me, that's such a small piece to it. We're teaching those kids how to set goals and how to work towards something. But my biggest thing is making sure that as a whole that we're still teaching the basics of what we're there for: communication, teamwork, perseverance, integrity, all those little pieces. And so as long as we're able to continue to teach these things that maybe most people don't think that we're teaching the kids, I feel like we're still being successful and moving in the right areas. And so that other goal that these kids are seeing, we can change that around as many times as we want to, but we still have to keep those main goals in place that they might not know that we're trying to teach them.
Yeah, and the thing that aligns with me is the values that you have, these values, because there's other companies, other organizations that have different values, but you're very clear on your values and the athlete development. And, my daughter's younger, and you had said, don't push her too hard. I'm like, oh, I thought that's what we needed to do. And so, it's like being humble as a parent of like, I don't even know what I'm doing or what's going on. And so, I think that really spoke to me when you were that sort of youth experience that you had been talking about, and athlete development and working with parents along the way. Tamera, I know you had some input there.
I just think it's incredible. And I think that, it's a twist, right? Because, we're listening to Nancy and all the incredible things that she does. And just again, I like to kind of put these flashes that correlate to mental health into it. And that's number one. She consistently has talked about how this dream and this powerful vision, how it's in alignment with her childhood, right? And we've got dreams, and it's almost like there is something bigger than us that calls us, and we begin to hear this calling, or we have this dream of doing something. And sometimes, like Nancy is sharing with us, and I'm hoping that our listening audience will take away these nuggets, that the journey isn't linear. You know, it really is, and I'm just borrowing, it's like a faith path, and not in a religious sense, but just in a spiritual sense. And we're listening to her talk about how she took this journey, and how at first, and again, talk about coming through and releasing narratives and releasing and moving towards who we authentically are in our calling, and letting go what other people may want for us. And that's a huge, I don't think folks understand the courage, the bravery it takes to surrender the narrative or the ideas of the familial journey and step into your own. Because I'm sure, Nancy, and I would love to hear you talk about this, because you shared how your parents were big supporters, but they were iffy and doubtful. What was that like for you as well, when not necessarily having that buy-in, from the get-go, because you're going in a different direction? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, so I mean, since I could remember, my dad always tried to put in my head, the medical field is going to be the best place to go. Everyone's always going to need help, everyone's going to eventually need to go into a hospital for something. He would joke around and be like, Nurse Nancy has a great ring to it, don't you think? um, and so I really grew up with him really gunning for that and really backing me in that. My mom, so I'm half Filipino. She's super Asian. So academics and the way that I did in school with my education was a huge thing to her. So she was constantly on me about what classes I was taking when I was in high school, how my grades were. So by the time I was a junior in high school, I was already registered to almost all of my classes were college credit classes, except for one of them. And so I was already taking like college anatomy and physiology through Boise State. I was in I had an EMT class that I was in where I was getting all my hours to take my test to get my EMT basic when I graduated high school. So I was on a pretty solid path into the medical field. And so when I started college and went off to Boise State, I was living on campus and started going to my classes. I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, I have like 4 more years of this that I need to get through. And I'm not sure I'm really loving this. And do I really want to go into something that I'm not super passionate about? And then there was this opportunity that came about. And after just a couple of weeks of getting into it, I was like, oh my gosh, I really love this. And this is what I want to do. And so I couldn't have said it better myself when you mentioned it was like a calling. And so making that decision to drop out of college for the first time, it was really scary to tell my parents, especially my mom, just because academics have always been a huge thing for her. I don't know if you know this, Kathy. I was born in the Philippines, and so I wasn't really born into a great environment. I guess I don't remember what it was like. My dad said when he met my mom, like our house had dirt floors. It was not the greatest, and that's why he moved us to America once I turned a year old, to help provide those new opportunities for me. So to my mom, growing up in that environment, it meant a lot for her, for me to be able to get my education and to get my college degree. And so she seemed really disappointed at first. But after a couple of weeks of letting it settle, she finally came around and said that she was going to support me in whatever I decided to do, as long as I was successful doing it. Yeah. That was all that she cared about.
And you're so amazing. When I first, I don't know what to say met, but like encountered you, you have been so humble, because we were working for another company. I was, before Riot came, we were with another Magic Valley Elite organization. You were just coaching. Like, I had no idea all this passion. You'd run a gym with 12 teams. Our gym has what, 3 or 4 teams, 5 maybe. And
Yeah.
so you had this whole huge career before, and you were so humble. I had no idea you were just coaching and doing what happened. And then through, circumstances, you were able to reestablish the gym here in Twin Falls. What was that like for you? Like to be like, oh my gosh, again?
I have no idea. Like I said, I keep getting pulled into it, and I joke around all the time. I'm like, cheerleading is a cult. And like you just keep getting pulled back into it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we ran our gym out in Meridian for, I mean, I want to say like 7 or 8 seasons before we closed down in March of 2020. We had COVID that hit, and so we kind of closed everything down at that time. And it was a nice little break and a breather from everything. And I was like, maybe I want to explore something else. Maybe I don't want to do cheer. So I took that time to move to Utah, where a good friend of mine, Stetson, called me up and was like, hey, Nancy, we're needing a coach at the gym I'm at. Would you be willing to come in and maybe fill in from time to time? And somehow I was like, yeah, I'll be a fill-in coach. And I ended up working there on almost all of their teams, all their tumbling classes within 2 weeks. And so I just kept getting roped into this. At that time, I was, after I want to say a few months of doing that, I was offered another job here in Idaho to come down to direct another program. And I was like, how is this happening? Why I keep trying to leave cheerleading and I keep getting these job offers and keep getting roped back in. And I felt like the harder that I tried to leave the industry, the harder I kept getting pulled back into it, to where I finally made the decision to join Magic Valley Elite. Sarah, she was always so sweet. When we owned Riot out in Meridian, we were good friends with her. She had messaged me when she had first taken over the program, was needing help with paperwork and getting things started. So I knew her through that. And she had contacted me saying that she was needing help. So I came on as a coach to help her program from the inside now, and help her regrow it. And then somehow I ended up reopening up my program under her blessing. She decided she needed to spend more time with her family. She wanted to focus on her regular full-time career. And now here I am again, owning a gym. I really think that it really was a calling for me, because once I made that decision to do it, there was no going back.
And it's so cool, right? Because just one little piece, Tamera, real quick. You had this like little space in the gym, and now recently you shared with a soccer field, and now you have the whole space, and so it's like things keep happening. It's so fun to watch.
Yeah, no, and I'm super excited about it. So I don't know if I've shared this with you yet, Kathy, but we are actually going to keep the soccer field. We're going to keep soccer in it, but we are also going to add other sports to it. So we're looking at adding like indoor football, some volleyball, potentially doing batting cages, just to bring more to our area in the winter. And I know I've had a lot of fun growing cheerleading here in this area, but I, growing up, was actually a multi-sports athlete because, again, cheerleading wasn't really offered, and I wanted to do something. And so I played basketball, I played softball, I played soccer, I did track, I did everything under the sun, and I really loved it. And I grew up really seeing the benefits of cross training and being a multi-sports athlete. And so when we got the opportunity to take over the entire building, I didn't want to just throw that opportunity away for other kids in this area. So I'm hoping to be able to build on it, but also add other sports over there too, just so that way we can add more to the community. And I'm not just targeting the cheerleaders of the area. I really do want to bring more here.
Just think what you're sharing is incredible, Nancy. I mean, there's so many nuggets here. There's so many nuggets, in reference to just taking your journey, recognizing, when you're on your path of being an entrepreneur, whether you're someone who's doing cheer or you're a chef or you a therapist trying to do a private practice, embracing the journey of becoming a student of the journey. And that's what it really sounds like you've done. And not only that, but looking at one of the things I hope that folks will take away from the conversation today was having an open mind and being flexible with the path. Not only that, but the brilliancy of collaboration, and looking, and I think that again, as entrepreneurs, um, sometimes getting out here and collaborating with others can be some sticky, sometimes muddy, sometimes some uh, feel like quicksand. But when you collaborate with others, or in other words, when you support others on their journey, that comes back to you in huge and incredible ways, right? And so I think that this is like it's a beautiful and very natural and organic conversation. And I just really want to thank you, because I think so many entrepreneurs, they have this idea of what starting a business and what growing it looks like that oftentimes is not very human. And then they struggle with the human parts of taking the journey into it, because it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be linear. It's going to have arms. It's going to have legs. It's going to have some weeds. It's going to have all of these other things. And then you need to work with other people. You need to collaborate. And I noticed, Nancy, as well, that maybe your parents were in the medical field, but you doing a lot of health stuff for the community. You know what I mean? And so it still has its branch, and it's like you're still in a big, huge, and incredible way. And I can't think of anything better to serve this generation of children than to getting them active and getting them working together and team building, especially with all of the online stuff that is going on. So it's almost like you are not only in one hand reviving, but also stirring up, the community in a sense of healthiness and wholeness and body movement, teamwork, and all the things. And so, how do you do all of this? Like, do you have like,
Imagine.
does it come from, you have this burst of idea that you see? Do you sit with it and then you implement it? Tell us the secret sauce of how that works for you.
I think, there's a little bit of vision in there. There's a little bit of lack of sanity sometimes, um, and a whole lot of work ethic. So, yeah, I don't know. Oh man, I looking at it, I feel like, I have this vision, and I have, what I feel inside, and the things that I want to do and what I want to bring. Um, and you saying these things, it makes me really happy to hear them, because sometimes I do kind of get stuck in the hustle and bustle of being just the the business side of things. And so I feel like a lot of my vision gets lost in me running the business side and having to do books and having to, chase people down to pay bills. And that's not the fun part of it. But what drives me is, working with the kids and getting to come in and see them every day. And then when a kid comes in is like, oh my gosh, Nancy, look what I just learned. I learned a new skill, and seeing how excited they get, or watch me coach Nancy, because they're proud of something that they worked super hard for. And so those are the things that make me really happy and really push me to do what I'm doing. But I also feel like, with us being so new in this area, I am still in the middle of continuing to train coaches, continuing to train athletes, continuing to almost train parents on what to expect out of these youth sports in this area, and how to grow them in the way that we want to grow them. And so, I mean, with vision comes a lot of also needing to be aware of what I'm doing and what's going on around me, and being able to kind of shift things and move to between the things that I need to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I did want to talk a little bit about the stigma and the parent issues and all the things that, you have to deal with. Because so for, I have a friend who wants a son to be in participation, and the dad was like, my son's not going to be a cheerleader. And it's like, we deal with a lot of stigma and a lot of, gender roles and those kinds of things. And then you have kind of the parents and their expectations, with Coach Abby from Dance Moms. That's all I knew about dancing and cheer, so I thought, oh God,
Oh
you're like,
man.
I'm here, you're almost the, antithesis of that, you're the complete opposite. So it was like, oh, that aligned with me and my values. How do you manage sort of the culture around sort of those parents who don't have realistic expectations or push them so far, in addition to some of like the encouraging sort of male young boys and to
Hmm.
to encourage them to be in the sport, because we do want that sort of feeling of being included and having them feel like, oh, this is something so fun, and Joe's really good at drawing those people in, with that. So how do you kind of, I know there was a lot of questions in there, but we want to talk about that.
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to, like kind of teaching parents and like the expectations of that, I don't like telling parents that their expectations are unrealistic. I mean, in general, but they're just unrealistic for right then, especially with those little kids that are coming in. Kids, they don't know what they like yet. They have to experiment and do things and play and have fun before they even decide that they like it. And so when a kid comes in and they're brand new and they're first trying cheerleading, my first thing is I want them to love the sport and I want them to have a good time. Because what do kids want to do? They want to play and they want to
Yeah.
have fun. And so it's got to be fun for them if they're going to keep doing it. I've noticed if a kid comes in and they're not loving it, they'll go to the back of the floor, they'll cross their arms, they'll sit down, and you can tell, they're not there because they want to be there. Oh, hi, baby. My son just walked in. Hey, babies, I'm in the middle of something. Yeah, you look like Deadpool right now. Can you go take that into the outside out there, babies?
Who is that?
Hi, buddy. How are
That's
you?
Kathy.
Just
That's
Kathy.
Kayla's mom. We're in a quick little meeting. Can you go out to the living room and watch your show for a little bit?
But I want to talk to her buddy.
Okay, we'll talk
Oh,
again.
her boys are
Oh,
probably
yeah.
at home. She's at work right now. But you can talk to them at the gym. Maybe they'll be at open gym on Friday or something. We can set up a play date. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have 5-year-old boys,
You
and
ready?
our little son, he's so cute. He's a little cheerleader. And so my son saw him and he was like, oh, I want to be like him. And so that's what I'm talking about with the culture and the excitement. And, he's like, I don't want to do karate. I want to do cheer. And so, I think that's just so fun.
Yeah, and I mean the kids just they have to find their own passion. Which is why, when I first get kids for the first, I want to say up to about 3 years that I have them, I try to guide them. I don't force it. I try to guide them into that passion and the parts of cheerleading that they like. And, if they don't end up loving cheerleading, that's okay. We have other avenues too. We have like just tumbling classes that they come into. We've got open gyms, and after I've worked with an athlete for a while, if they still seem like they're not loving cheer, I'll have a talk with the parent and be like, maybe we should have them try a different sport. Because to me, yes, I'm growing a business, but I'm not in the business to ruin children either. I'm in the business to help grow them, and help develop them. And sometimes my environment might not be the right environment for that kid, and that's okay. But I do want to at least help steer that parent in the right direction, when it comes to expectations. Now, if the kid is loving cheerleading and we've got a parent who is, just trying to live through their kid and push them to be, front and center, point flyer, center of attention, everything. That's when it gets a little tricky, and sometimes you have to walk on eggshells for a little bit, get to know the parent, get to learn their communication styles and the best way to approach that parent about the situation. And then just constant communication with them and things
Yeah.
that their kids need to work on. And just being very transparent with them and where their kid is. And well, I understand this is your goals and where you would like to see your kid, but this is where they're at and this is how we get there. I don't ever like to just completely shut people down, because that puts the fire out. And that's the last thing you want to do in anyone. I know a lot of people see some of these parents as toxic or the crazy cheer moms. And to be honest, I love my crazy parents because as much as it looks crazy, I know that the underlying feelings are, you know, they're passionate about it. They care about their kid. They want to see their kid succeed. And in order for their kids to succeed, the whole team's going to need to succeed. And so there's a lot more going on than what is just showing on the surface.
I've seen our blizzard that we went through when we went to Utah that year, remember? So
Yeah.
first year, my first competition, right? And so Utah, for our listeners, is like 3 hours away. And Nancy was like, we're going down there. And she left. It was like, 1 or something. I left at like 3. And by the time in that time period, it was like a blizzard and people were dropping like flies. And me and Coach Rachel were like, we're going. And I showed up there and I was like, oh, this is a team sport. Like, my individuals here. And they're like, okay, we ended up having to cancel because of this blizzard or whatever. And it was like, oh, so I learned like, a lot about like the team aspect and like also commitment, like I'm down, let's go.
And, things like that will happen throughout the season. And that's also, where parents will realize maybe this isn't the sport for my family to be a part of, because regardless of what happens, sunshine, rain, whatever, the show must go on in cheerleading. And that's the way that the producers and the competition directors are with this sport. And so it's full commitment once you get into the competitive part of it. And that goes for, even our novice and our prep teams. Those competition directors, they still look at them the same way that they look at their elite teams, and they still hold them to the same standard, which I think is great. Because it sets that expectation for the parents and how you need to move forward. But it also shows the parents, okay, well, maybe this isn't something that I can commit to. Like, this is a little crazy for me, because there are parts of cheerleading that are absolutely crazy and psychotic, and I've been in it for well over a decade now, and I still am like, oh my God, this is crazy.
I appreciate your grounded approach, because I was like, oh my God, how am I going to launch my mental health practice and my business? I'm planning all these trainings. I'm doing these things. How can I manage this? And then I was like, Nancy, I just need to talk to you, because I'm like, I don't want to push her too far. And then she's in 2nd grade. And then we ended up needing to do some reading, tutoring. And so I actually, I don't know if you know this, I ended up finding her reading tutor when we went to Utah for that conference. And they had that reading experiment, reading event down there. I found her tutor. And so that's how we found tutoring. And so it's like being open to all these experiences together. It was just, for the parent side, I was just nervous. Can I do this? And looking like, we'll see if she likes it. And then she just got her backflip yesterday on the trampoline, by the way. I'm always sending Nancy videos. Caleb's like, can you send me videos to Nancy? And
oh my goodness. Oh, she's going to come running up to me next practice. Come on, Nancy, look what I can do.
I know.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. So I was just so thrilled about that. I just want to kind of let Tamera chime in here about all these things. Then I also want you to kind of line out those steps of like prep, novice, for our listeners and maybe anyone else that's not involved. But Tamera, what kind of thoughts?
Well, I just think it's been an incredible conversation on the entrepreneurial journey and what it really looks like. And I think that Nancy has done such a beautiful and incredible share in a human one as well. It's so refreshing, Nancy. You know what I mean? It's like we're not meeting your representative. We're meeting Nancy, who is really the visionary behind this incredible business and community that you're building. One of the things that I took away from what you were sharing just a moment ago is we got to love what we're here to do.
Yeah.
We have to love the work. We have to love the work and who the work is going to impact. And listening and watching you light up when you talk about those kids, when you talked about even the cheer moms, I mean, it's all in you. You know what I mean? Even whether it's difficult for you at times when you're dealing with moms and all the things, or you're dealing sometimes with the challenges. But the thing that I hope that our listeners will take away is that take time to sit with and be with the love of the work. Be with the love of the calling. Be with the love of the way you know it can transform lives. right? Because it really sounds like that's what's giving you this bold permission. And it's like you've got this audacity, Nancy.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like you have this audacity, this boldness, this courage, and you are creating something that is going to transform these kids. Like they're going to remember this forever, you know? And so,
It's aimed off my Spider-Man's.
Baby, I'm in the middle of something. We can fix
you
it.
know,
Sorry.
so that's just the feedback. I really want to hold space so you can share with us the
structure of it. And
the
then I want to
structure.
share the other
Mhm.
exciting thing is, dude, she's bringing the Olympics here. I don't know, you know, the Olympic structure, but she's brought that here. I'm like so excited. I was like, what? And her
Yeah.
husband was so excited, like with her passion and drive. So I also want to hear about the Olympics and how that came. And
Yeah.
can you believe I'm even saying this? It's like so crazy.
So, I mean, so as far as like the sports and the structure, when I first came on and we came in with MVE and then ended up reopening up Riot, we had started with two elite teams and a prep team, is what we had. So we started with three teams here, and that was just about a year and a half ago. And as we were moving into that, I realized, um, we don't really have other opportunities for kids to jump in on this at a lower cost. Like what I was hearing from everyone in this area was, man, that's way too expensive. I can't get my kid into that. So I started looking at the other avenues and things that we could offer as far as cheerleading goes. And so we separated it into tiers. So we've got our elite teams. We've got our prep and our novice teams. And then we also re-added rec into our program as an introduction into it. So the cost of rec is like a quarter of what it costs to do elite cheerleading. And so it's more affordable, which allows more people to come in and try the sport and makes it more accessible to people in this area. I had to do a lot of studying, you know, the demographic and figuring out what the median income was and what was something that the majority of the people that are here could afford to get their kids involved in sports. And so that's why we separate it into those tiers. So when you first come in, we normally start you on rec now. And that's so that way, you know, you can kind of get your feet wet, see if it's even something you like, learn all the basics of cheerleading, learn how to do the stunting, the tumbling, the jumps, the dance, structuring a routine and moving through a routine. And then they do one showcase at the end of their little 6-month session where they get to see what it's like to perform in front of a crowd. And that's just their friends and their family. It's not a full-blown competition, but it's to see if they even like that. And then if the kids are successful in that and they like it and they want to move on, that's when we say, okay, let's try either a novice or a prep team, depending on their age group. Because then that's when it starts to get a little bit more competitive. There's a little bit more practice time. See if the parents can handle, you know, the extra practice time on their plate. Most kids have other siblings that are in other sports. Because we don't want to be like, oh, come in and marry our program right off the get-go.
Yeah.
Like you got to date first before you get married, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we have our program structured. And then after a couple of years of doing, you know, your novice and then your prep program, that's when we say, okay, let's go ahead and try elite, because then they have that experience under their belt. The kids aren't pooping their pants before they go on stage and absolutely shaking with nerves. And it's fun for them now. It's not super nerve wracking and super scary. Now it's fun and they want to go out there and they want to perform and compete at at a higher level, because just jumping in, sometimes that can be super nerve wracking for kids, especially younger ones, going out in front of thousands of people and performing these skills, tumbling, you know, end over end, and then going up in the air. Doing those skills already by themselves in a gym can already be nerve wracking, let alone in front of a ton of people, which is why I don't always recommend going full blown elite right away. And that's just for the mental growth of the athlete. It's not because I'm like, oh, your kid's not physically capable of doing it. We can teach kids all day long how to do the physical part of it. It's the mental part. And to me, a lot of the times that is the most fragile part of coaching and growing athletes. And so
the things that you had said to us, you know, there were some parents pushing for different levels and quicker. And I'm like, I'm just going to go with what Nancy says, you know, 'cause I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing really. And so then it was like, oh, when you explained, like, this is a team where we're developing the team. Like when we went to Las Vegas, I'm like, oh, they didn't do very good. And then you explained, like, oh, they weren't supposed to. This is the experience. And, one of the moms had said, oh, how can you say that? I'm like, well, I don't know. I thought it was all about placement. And then you explained about the development and the competition and all the things. I was like, oh, okay, I understand it. So it's taken a lot for me to kind of, and there's still so much more for me to learn, but also
Mhm.
for me as a parent, now I'm mentoring new parents to be like, okay, this is what she means. This is what to sort of take that off your plate or help build that culture and community among the parents of like, yeah, actually we don't do that here. So, and so like you're building that in the parents to like help you also along of like, that's not what we're about. If you're about that, then you can, stage left. But you're building that culture in the parents as well. So I think that's really super important. I want to hear about the Olympics. Tell us about the Olympics.
Yeah, so we had junior Olympic tryouts. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. We had a decent amount of kids show up, but not enough to quite field a team that had the set skills that were needed. So I reached out to them. We may be able to trial it again next year. But unfortunately, we just don't, again, cheerleading's not big in this area yet. And so I think I may have jumped the gun on that one. I got a little excited about the growth. But that's okay because we still have a whole nother year that we can sit and we can train athletes and prepare them. And that's not out of the question. It's definitely something I want to try bringing back in future years, but I do think that we need to focus a little bit more on the development and growth of the sport, in at least in this area before we try it again. But it's definitely still on the table. But it was a lot of fun. I was really excited about it. I know quite a few other people were really excited about it. That we will definitely be trying to bring it back.
And that's what an entrepreneur is, isn't it? That's what an entrepreneur is. It's like, I want to see this vision where we could be, and I'm not quite ready yet. And I've had, Tamera and I have had so many examples of, our alligator mouth overrides our hummingbird butt. So, we've had a lot of that. So I think that's positive. It shows the direction that you want to go. Any kind of closing comments, Tamera, things that you want to kind of point out? I think it's been so powerful today to be able to talk about that. We could have a whole nother podcast on connection and, sports. But I'm going to kind of turn it over to Tamera.
I just think, Nancy, it's a breath of fresh air, and I thank you for just being real. I think you really, you painted a picture um, for entrepreneurs, right, on what the journey looks like
Mhm.
and the points that we can kind of reflect back on that can help ignite our passion, our sense of purpose, and then marry our faith with doing the work. And you really, really painted a beautiful picture on recognizing that, yes, having a vision and doing incredible things and serving community, but it comes with all the things and you got to be equipped for it. And so I just thank you for sharing. Can you just answer this one question?
And I have one
What
more
is the
too. Yeah.
what is the one thing you do, Nancy, with all of the incredible output and creativity and all the things that you do in this incredible world? How do you take care? What is the one thing you do to pour back into yourself?
Um, Honestly, I think it's just, you know, ending my days and being able to reflect on what I do. I always take a couple minutes every day and kind of reflect and be like, are you happy with what you're doing?
Mm,
Are you still growing as a person? Are you still pushing yourself? Because a lot of my job revolves around helping others grow and pushing others to be better. And there are times where I have to take a moment and I need to, kind of do a little bit more growing on as far as I go as a business owner. And is this something you're still passionate about? What parts do you feel like you need to grow on? I'm very passionate about learning more all the time. And as long as I'm doing that and I'm taking the time for myself to continue to push in other areas, then I'm happy. And I know that I'm pouring into myself and I'm continuing to grow as well, right next to all these other individuals. So
I'll point something out. Nancy's also a cheer mom. You know, you have one son that kind of he can do fun skills, but he's not into it like the little one. How do you manage that with like balancing your dynamics as a couple and a family, and how do you make those decisions for your family, yourself, you know, because like your parents, they wanted this certain vision for you. How does that inform how you parent and those kinds of things?
I I let the kids know that they have the opportunity to use the gym in any way that they want to, whether that's tumbling classes or if they want to try a cheer team. But I also ask them if there's things that they want to try. So like Raiden has wanted to try martial arts in the past. He's wanted to do t-ball. He's wanted to do soccer. He's wanted to do basketball. And I've signed him up for all those sports. And he's my one that likes to tumble but doesn't want anything to do with a cheer team. And so he knows that whatever it is that he wants to do, I will push him and I'll encourage him, and he can do whatever it is that he wants. My youngest, Atlas, who's been in and out of here, he absolutely loves cheerleading. But again, with me being a cheer mom, I also know that there's a hard separation sometimes for people when they're like, oh, she's a cheer mom, but she's also a cheer coach. So part of my business model is I'm always going to make sure that I'm not coaching my own children. So I can just be mom to them. Because I have seen in other environments where that has kind of played a role in the way that the athletes respond to their parents, the way that other parents respond to that athlete, the things that are said. And I just don't want my child to be subject to any of the types of conversations I've heard about other kids in the past. So it's just kind of my way as being a mom of protecting my kid. So I won't ever coach my own kids. I'll always have one of my coaches coach my kids.
Yeah, and I think you have a lot of good, them being in the gym, you always, you know, we have all kinds of dynamics. I mean, you know, we've had conversations about our kids. This happened, and you're a really good model for like, this is what we need to do, this is what is expected. And so we've had some hard conversations, you know, together, and we're like, okay, so that leadership is also shown through. So you're balancing a lot. So I just really respect you. You know, I admire you. As I was watching you, I was like, oh my God, she's a full-blown, you know, thing. It's like, whoa. So we just learned so much together as I am building, you know, my mental health practice and trying to bring training, mental health to the area. It's just been so, you know, I'm mental health. So anything that's sort of, you know, not appropriate, I think, you know, I got your back on that one. So it's fun, you know, to have like all these parents and all these new exciting experiences. And now as I've gone through my first elite season, I'm like, oh, I get it. Well, I mean, I might not get some things, but it's been like the aha moment. So we're going to have a few little closing remarks. And then Tamera, do you have anything else you want to say, Nancy, before we kind of close?
I just want to thank you guys for, you know, taking the time and bringing me onto this. This has been a really fun experience, and getting to, you know, express parts of cheer in my job that I don't always get to express to everybody. I know when I come in, a lot of people just see, you know, the business side of me and, you know, running the gym in that way, but no one really knows the backstory. And so that's been a lot of fun to get to come out and share with you guys.
Do you do all your marketing and all your, I have
do.
asked, oh my God, just if you haven't gone to Riot Xtreme website or Googled it, it's so amazing. I'm like, how did you do that? So
I actually just finished updating our website last night. So that took me like 6 hours. But yes, I do all of our marketing. I do all of our websites. I do pretty much everything.
All right, tell us where they can find you.
Like our website, or coming in
if they want to sign up or any
yeah. I mean, you can, if you want to know more about Riot Xtreme Cheer, just head to our website. It's www.riotxtremecheer.com, spelled with an X, not an E, for extreme. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and then if you want to email me directly, my email is nancy@riotxtremecheer.com. I'm always happy to answer any questions. Email is the best way to reach me. I'm constantly checking that. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Tamera.
Beautiful. Well, Nancy, we thank you so much for coming on and being with us. There's so many incredible things that are going on in the world around us, despite some of the, you know, challenges the world is facing. But you are bringing more light, more wellness, more togetherness. And so we honor and salute you for doing that. And so we are so grateful. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please share the broadcast. right? We're here to help and support with these powerful conversations, and so many incredible things are on the horizon. Kathy, let us know what's going on with Rewired 360 and
Okay.
take us out.
We are about ready to launch, hopefully this year, our basic training, which means that EMDR therapy, which is a more powerful way of transforming the mental health landscape so people don't have to stay in therapy for years. We're trying to get that here. We're going to go virtual online, and then we'll do it here, hopefully in Twin Falls, so more clinicians can be trained in having better mental health outcomes for clinicians. Also, I have my grief trainings. We have tons of trainings, tons of consultations. So I'm creating an EMDR university where you can get trained, then get certified, be a consultant, and then a trainer and an EMDR career pathway. So that's me. And I am so happy to be here. You can find me at rewired360.com, Arise Psychotherapy. And we are so happy to be here on our Friday, and just want to thank our guests for your beautiful time. And Tamera, thank you for being our co-host, and we will see you next time. And we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.